Hi, I'm Lo. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 4 years and living together for about 3 years. We started dating when we were both finishing our undergraduate degrees, and I was planning on going to law school. I'm currently in my third year of law school, which required us to move 900 miles to a big city. Things have been up and down for about 2 years. My girlfriend is very reactive. Sometimes she gets mad before I can finish a sentence, and then she calms down immediately when I finish. She's always been like that, even with other people. She snaps at her family on the phone a lot, and they regularly hang up on her, and sometimes they get upset with me as a result. For example, her dad was just on the phone with her, helping her set up her new iPhone that she paid for. He didn't know the answers to some of the questions she was asking. His girlfriend kept demanding answers and getting mad, which only made him hit on her. Just today, when I woke up to work from home, I noticed that she was still getting ready when her shift was supposed to start a few minutes ago. "Baby, aren't you supposed to be at the office at 9?" I asked. She yelled at me to leave and said, "What's the big deal to you?" Then she left. I recently went on an expensive vacation with my family that I had been planning for months. Due to the nature and cost of the trip, my girlfriend and my siblings' spouses were not invited. I had to take a week off from my 10-week summer internship to do this. My family is also planning a trip to visit us in a nearby city in a few weeks. I can't take a leave for part of this trip because I just got a week off, and since the internship is temporary, I don't have any more time. My girlfriend knew that it would be difficult for me to make it to part of the trip and that I would probably miss 1 to 2 days of the 6-day trip. Now she's furious with me. She's yelling at me for not telling her and that I'm prioritizing my family vacation over her vacation because I'm going to miss part of this trip. I told her to go alone with my family and that I would meet them when I finish work. He is very angry and blames me for not being able to take a vacation this summer. I don't understand this anger, and it is out of my control. Also, I prioritized the other trip because it actually required me to take a week off work. I can work remotely for the upcoming trip. I will just have to be away from work for a few days at the beginning of the week while I am in the office. This is a bigger deal, but he acts this way towards me almost all the time. When something is not done at home. When I don't immediately ask him to help me with something. When I bring up that he hasn't paid me for things we agreed to split 4 months. Basically anything he doesn't like or that bothers him. He is very fun and happy when he benefits or is pleased. I do most of the work because he gets upset when things aren't done. I try to make him happy, so I do extra work, which is pretty regular. This continues even when I am in law school or working full-time. He insists that I do more because he works full-time. I am very lucky and my parents pay for our apartment while I am in school. So he lives here for free. His only expenses are food and entertainment. When I try to calm him down or explain that his behavior is aggressive and hurtful, he tells me to stop making him feel bad. I am thinking of leaving my husband after 4 years of marriage. Hi, I am Jessica. I am 28 years old. My husband is 30 years old. He does not contribute to the housework and spends hours playing games every day. I have to remind him of basic things like showers and chores. I have told him many times that I do not want to parent him, and he will be fine for a day or two, and then he will be right back to his old self. He only has 2 things to do: dishes and trash. And we have a dishwasher. The problem is that he has neglected these things for so long that now we have a fruit fly infestation and we have to call pest control to come and take care of it. I know I need to do something before it gets this bad, but he keeps assuring me that it will be done. He is also incredibly impulsive and spends money that he knows we do not have. I am currently unemployed and will not be paid until July. I have also tried to communicate about this, but when I try to talk about the things that bother me, he just shuts down. There are other reasons, but these are the most important ones. These have only become a problem in the last year or 2. He probably has an undiagnosed condition. I can see the symptoms and I know these issues are a problem due to the disease. I have suggested coping strategies, but he says they won't work and won't try. When I try to communicate with him, his shutting down means I can't talk to him. He refuses to talk to me until he has everything bottled up and exploded, which he claims reinforces his not talking to me. I have suggested marriage counseling. And he claims we don't need it. I love him so much. But these issues are wearing me down so much that I am depressed. Today I lost my temper again and called him lazy and basically told him he wasn't allowed to play until he finished his chores and the flies were dealt with. It makes me feel like I am parenting him again. I don't want to leave him, but I don't know what else to do right now. Asterisk, my girlfriend lost all her libido last year due to medication. How can I tell her about this? Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm 19 and my girlfriend is also 19. I've been dating my girlfriend for 2.5 years. She started birth control after 6 months because the condom withdrawal was stressing her out and she thought she would be more comfortable on the pill. I've noticed that my sex drive hasn't decreased since I started the pill, and maybe it's a slight increase due to the decreased anxiety about it. I have a very high sex drive. I could happily have sex with her 3 times a day. Hers was always lower. We would hang out about once a day and occasionally enjoy ourselves when we weren't together. I think the real change started about a year ago when she started taking anxiety medication. I'm not sure what medication she was on, it doesn't seem to help much from what I can tell. However, when she started taking anxiety medication, our sex life started to slowly decrease. We started a long-distance relationship for college 3 months after we started taking the pill. When winter break came around, she was noticeably different. He was still very loving and affectionate, but he stopped initiating sex and rejected my initiations more often. Our intimacy times dropped to once a week and I was almost always the one initiating. I finally asked him if everything was okay, and he told me he was no longer aroused by anything. We talked about how to work through our sexual differences and went back to school for the spring semester. Now, a month and a half into summer break, it's even worse. We hang out 3 times a week and have sex every 4 or 5 times we hang out. I always initiate and then he says he never wants sex but loves it when we do, and I feel bad that he's bothered by it. For me, it's been hard to handle. The lack of sex we once had affects my mood and I feel bad when we're together because I feel like he's constantly aroused. He's usually not interested in other options, so I've tried to excuse myself to masturbate, but it feels weird and upsetting, so I can't stop. I don't want to pressure him or make him do something he doesn't want to do, but I really struggle with his lack of sex and I hate how selfish I feel when I think about it. I know he struggles with anxiety and probably wants to have more sex drive, but I'm not sure I can handle having so little sex for so long. I've heard that switching medications can help, but I don't know how to bring this up without coming across as inconsiderate of his struggles and selfish about my own sexual desire. Are you accusing me of being a communist? I will reward you with a slow and painful death. Hello, I am Lily. I live in a town in a relatively small Asian country in the mid-60s where the people and government hate the communist ideology. Let's call my family member Aaron. He was 26 to 27 at the time, and his family immigrated from China to this Asian country where most of the population looked nothing like Aaron. His family were merchants who sold goods and spices to the rather wealthy local people, and they were able to put Aaron in a higher education institution. There, he befriended local students whose parents were in the military or were politicians because the country had just gained independence and was a struggling state, and education was completely non-existent at the time. People were uneducated at the time, and most had little to eat. During my second year at university, a war broke out against communism throughout the country, and most foreigners either returned to their hometowns or sought refuge at the borders. People took advantage of the opportunity to loot stores, rape women, and kill men, because the police and military were overwhelmed and they were able to take justice into their own hands. Fortunately, Aaron's family managed to escape the town, seeking shelter at a family home in the capital before chaos broke out when they were told to leave by their family members in the capital. However, Aaron was convinced that nothing would happen and that he would stay home because he could not abandon his studies. He was not strong or anything, but he was in great shape. One night, a neighbor came to the house to say goodbye because he was planning to escape and suggested that Aaron do the same immediately, but Aaron refused. Before dawn, he woke up to the sound of shouting and banging at the door. He looked outside and saw dozens of people bursting into his house, wanting to arrest him for being a communist. He tried to convince the crowd through the gap in the door of the house that he was not a communist. But of course, they would not believe him because he looked just like the other communists, and the one who incited the crowd was an acquaintance of the family. It seemed that Aaron's family business was doing well in the area, but Brooks was not. He blamed Aaron's family for the failure of his business. Brooks had connections with the army, and that night they beat Aaron an inch before he died, and after he was arrested they took him to a camp in the woods where accused communists were rounded up. In that camp, accused communists were held for 3 or 4 days at the most, and when they ran out of space they marched them deep into the woods and dug their own graves, and then shot them. Mass executions were common at the time because the rivers would run blood red, and the bodies would be left on the side of the road and in open fields. The bodies would be hung from a bridge, and most of these people were not actually communists. It didn't look good for Aaron because he was given nothing to eat and was forced to strip naked and humiliated by Brooks and his men. At one point he was told to walk into the woods, thinking that was the end. However, he was given a gun and told to shoot the other prisoners in the head or he would be shot himself. After days of torture, both physically and mentally, he begged them to kill him because it would be much better than living that way. Now the revenge started here. Remember the local students at the university Aaron went to? One of them had a father who was quite high up in the army and had met Aaron in his first 2 years at university. Let's call him a colonel. One day, while checking out the communist camps, he recognized Aaron and knew that Aaron was definitely not a communist. He was angry at his subordinates for unfairly arresting Aaron. It turned out that Brooks was not actually a member of the military because he was able to arrest people and stay in the camp thanks to his military friends, who were lower in rank compared to the colonel. While the colonel gathered the troops and investigated Aaron's unfair arrest, Brooks' military friends reported him because they definitely picked their own asses compared to Brooks. Aaron told the colonel everything from the mass executions to the torture he had been through. Brooks, not being a member of the military and in the camp, my boyfriend confessed something disturbing and I don't know what to do. Hi, I'm Isabella, I'm 17 and my boyfriend is 19. We started the relationship because I really liked him. He was always nice to me and made me feel safe. I still love him and that makes it hard. When we first talked he said he hated children, cats, and anything cute. He also gets jealous very easily. At the time I didn't think it was a big deal. But then he told me something I couldn't get out of my mind. He said he didn't feel empathy or sadness. And he said he sometimes feels the urge to kill or rape. He told me that when he feels these urges he feels pain in the right front of his head and in his heart, as if holding it in physically hurts him. He told me that he wouldn't do anything to people because it's a big sin in his religion. He also said that he wouldn't kill animals, but then he said he wanted to kill a cat. That part really shocked me. I asked him if he was going to go to therapy and he said he couldn't because of money and family problems. He also doesn't want to change. He said he doesn't want to go to prison, a mental hospital, or hell. He never hurt me and he was always sweet to me, but this whole thing scares me a little. I don't know what to think anymore. I love him so much. I don't want to leave him. But I'm scared too. What can I do? We've been together for 6 months. He only started talking about these dark urges a few weeks ago. I don't know what to do. I was institutionalized at 12 and I don't even feel like a person anymore. Hi, I'm Chloe. When I was 12, my adoptive parents put me in a psychiatric hospital and I was in the system until I was 18. Even then, I was on medication and in therapy. Until I was 23. I had mental health issues from my parents, but my adoptive parents also harmed me. I needed help, but not like this. I spent the next 7 years moving through different levels of care and security, from locked psychiatric wards to secure behavioral centers, and even once to a minimally restrictive home that felt more like a dormitory but had more rules. However, he put me on a lot of medications that led to countless trips to the emergency room and nearly killed me on several occasions. The doctors quickly changed my medications to see what would work, and unfortunately, I had several psychotic breaks and breakouts. There are huge parts of my childhood that I can't remember or repress at this point. When I finally got out of the system and re-entered society on my own, I felt like an alien. I never went to high school, I took my credits and classes in locked facilities. Some places wouldn't let us watch the news and we had limited access to the outside world, so I feel like I missed out on a lot. To this day people comment on things and I don't understand the posting. I also admit that I used to social distance myself. I stayed away for my own safety after being in places where there were suicides, fights, mental breakdowns, and I was extremely thin. I'm in my 30s and I don't understand people. I can laugh and smile, but I feel empty most of the time. I'm not depressed, I've felt that before and this isn't it. I just feel empty. I wake up, go to work, come home and relax. I don't want to be around people because I don't understand them. I don't feel the need to talk, connect, or even find a partner. I admit that I haven't had any romantic or sexual interactions in about 12 years. I find others attractive, but I have no desire to interact with them. I honestly have no desire to find a partner or have children. To be clear, I'm not depressed or interested in life. I just don't understand and want to stay away from others.